family with the East Valley team, and I want to talk a little bit about short sale transactions. You know, the transactions that you love to hate. It's just like a regular deal. You put your contract in to the seller. They like it or they don't like it. That part's all the same. There's just this one little extra step. Third party approval. All right, it's kind of a big step. You know, the part where the seller's creditors have to approve the sale, and that could be the first lien holder, second lien holder, third lien holder, HOA lien holder, the guy who didn't get paid for fixing the roof, basically anybody who has a lien on the property and can hold up the sale. They all have to sign off on this thing. But a lot of people forget that. They forget that just because they said, here's the price that they want to sell the house at, and I'm going to pay that price, they think that it's a done deal. It's not. It's not a done deal. It's not a done deal until the lender or lenders say so. They hold all the cards. They do. I mean, they really, really do. And it does put a couple of twists in there, because while these creditors are deciding whether they're going to go for the deal or not, there can be some negotiation that takes place. And see, that's where it gets a little bit confusing, I think, because the negotiation is taking place between the seller and the seller's creditors, not between the buyer and the seller. So the buyer is kind of left out in the cold while everybody's talking amongst themselves here, but the buyer's the one who's going to pay the price, right? Because these negotiations usually deal with the net proceeds to the creditors, and that's going to come out of the purchase price. And who's paying for the house? The buyer. And so they kind of just have to sit on their hands and wait for this to take place. You know, they might have offered $150, which seemed like a good price, but maybe the creditors decided, no, they need more like $160. If the buyer doesn't want to pay it, well, they could walk away, but they don't get to negotiate. It's kind of a one-way street. And that's where it gets confusing, I think. That's where it kind of gets weird. I was just involved in a transaction where we ran into this problem. The seller's creditor came back with a $5,000 increase in the price, roughly speaking. The buyer's agent decided to dig in and decided to stand their ground and say, no, we're not coming up. They decided that they had a right to buy the house for the original purchase price. Not so much. Because of a misunderstanding, it took quite a long time to get that first position offer out and the second position offer in, who was willing to pay the price that the creditors would accept. The creditors can also just say, you know what, no short sale. No short sale for you. Not today. They can cancel the whole deal, which they do quite often. The listing agent's responsibility is to the seller, and the listing agent wants that short sale to get approved to benefit the seller. So they're going to work with the seller's creditors to come up with a price that works, and if they can find a buyer who's willing to meet that price, well, that's the buyer that's going to get to buy the house. Bottom line, that's how they work. So I know it's confusing and weird, but here's my advice. Buying a short sale, it's not for everybody. You got to have some patience, because it's going to take some time to get an answer. And you got to know that just because you put a price in and just because the seller signs off on it, it means nothing until the seller's creditors sign off on it too. So if that won't work for you, I would suggest looking at one of the other types of transactions that are out there, and there are other kinds of deals to be had. If you have any questions or comments, I would really love to hear them. Why don't you leave me a comment below or shoot me an email at kristen@eastvalleyteam.com.